The scent of death is sweet, a cologne of something chilling and saccharine, like spoiled figs and honey and mud. I know this because all my memories of Arrow's Edge will be forever tainted with it, and my asthma left to drift into the psyche late at night when I'm driving or walking or given more than a second alone. When the frost begins to gather on windows and the sign of a new year creeps in with all its flashing glory, that scent, with its unique and terrible power, consumes every part of me, until the very thought of each gilded room and once polished floor is stained with it, as much as the wallpaper still sits forever stained with their blood. Months of my life can now be boiled down into these simple impressions. Wine glasses in hands and heels on marble, herbs and the rise of steam from beakers, perfume and grinning lips, a clink, a cut, a whisper. Each of them accurate, but each of them simple, dreamlike things, far prettier and far more poetic than the full reality. If that's not what the mind is good for, to repaint and repossess every small horror of our lives, then perhaps it's the heart's doing. After all, it was my heart, as much as my hand, that led to their deaths. It happened quickly, hitting the newsstands like whiplash. The fateful downfall of the Verdeau family and their empire. None of the tabloids ever managed to come close to the truth. Even if they tried, and some did try, they never stood a chance. Yet, as I sit here now, almost a decade since I first came into their lives, there is not an ounce of marrow remaining in my bones absent of the details. While an indulgent game transpired between private rooms in Boston and the now cobwebbed walls of Arrow's Edge, a series of poisons took their toll, and of the hands that crafted them, one is the very same that attempts to write this now. I guess some might call this a confession. There was nothing sweet in the air as I stepped off the train and walked down the tree-lined street in Boston's historic neighborhood of Back Bay. Not then, anyway. Not that day. Autumn was still weeks away, yet the air was crisp and clean, verdant, from the grass along the Charles River being freshly cut. But if there is to be any starting point for all this, then it was there. My heels covered in pollen, a gentle breeze in the curls of my hair, and the New England sun beating down on my face in a way that felt familiar and yet oddly foreign. I had recently returned from living with my aunt in Italy, and after 2 long years away had just set my suitcases down in the living room of my childhood home when my father handed me the want ads page of the newspaper. Unemployment checks, he had explained to me over the phone the week before my flight, weren't enough to cover the family anymore. The tired look in his bloodshot eyes the day of my arrival convinced me that he hadn't been exaggerating. Something in him had changed in my absence, and the piles of pain meds and constant phone calls from the debtors told me I had no choice. In my parents' eyes, my vacation was over. Responsibility was calling, and anyone in the family who was old enough to work was expected to do their share. 6 months prior, my father had been cut from the payroll at his job. No notice given, and to my knowledge, no clue that it was coming either. If there had been, his pride wouldn't have let him say. His pride, as it were, had also prevented him from sending an email to let me know. At least, until the meager savings we had as a family ran out. The situation had made him and my mother more sour and resentful of my time abroad in the first place, a fact that made my homecoming less enjoyable by the second, and made me yearn for the chance to return to my aunt's side and back to a semblance of peace. My aunt, Claire Richetti, was well known in the academic world, so long as you studied botany or medieval history, which admittedly not many people do. She was the most successful in her field out of any of us, another thing I think my parents resented. My mother especially, considering that Claire was her sister.